Okay. I'm sure most of us who live in the Central Valley are familiar with the phrase "si se puede," spoken by the labor leader Dolores Huerta. These famous words are the beginning of a laborious movement fighting for the rights of migrant farm workers. What would begin as a slogan would become a beacon for change. We all benefit from the monumental strides made by Dolores Huerta and her activism. Specifically, when we eat produce and grapes, we are tasting a piece of history. Growing up in an agricultural community, the name Dolores Huerta was one that I became familiar with from a very young age. My grandfather was lucky enough to march alongside her in the historic boycotts in 1966. Si se puede is not just a statement, but a call for change. Today, we will discuss Dolores' activism, beginning as a teacher, her infiltration of the labor movements, and securing labor laws for farm workers. First, we will learn about Dolores' beginnings working with the CSO. Second, we will discuss her position as a negotiator and the co-founder of the United Farm Workers Association. And finally, we will discuss her lasting impact she's made as an activist. In 1995, Dolores Huerta met Fred Ross, the founder of the Community Service Organization. During this time in the organization, Dolores learned about the importance of grassroots organizing. According to Christine Beagle, this is where Dolores would cultivate members who would be dedicated to the movement. She would do so by moving through her network of contacts, discussing outlining ways to rectify any ills befalling the community, then outlining ways they can participate in the CSO. This would be the blueprint for grassroots organization. In National Archives, Jesse Kratz tells us how Huerta's time at the CSO was spent advocating for Spanish language voting ballots and driver's licensing tests. She also organized drives for voter registration and lobbied local government to improve Hispanic neighborhoods in the area. While this work was important, she realized that the issues were more dire for those who were working in the fields. Huerta famously said, "I couldn't tolerate seeing kids come to class hungry and needing shoes. I thought that I could do more by organizing farm workers and by teaching their hungry children." While her time at the CSO opened her eyes to the issues within her community, she realized she had to make a change. This is where she began her work for the United Farm Workers Foundation. Turning her efforts in a different direction, Huerta would go on to co-found the UFW alongside Cesar Chavez. During this time, Chavez would act as the face, the voice, and the leader of the United Farm Workers movement. However, Dolores would act as a negotiator and organizer of the operation. As stated by Stacy Sowards, she operated more as behind-the-scenes leader. During a time when women were not seen as belonging in positions of authority or in power, Dolores left her mark by being the person who would strategize and focus on key principles that would help advance the movement. It was here that she would organize the 1965 Delano grape strike. The strike would prove successful where, according to the Digital Library of America, table grape growers signed their first union contracts, granting workers better pay, benefits, and protections. While her efforts were not highlighted as her co-founders were, her fight for justice and equality did not end here. Huerta continued to champion for change in legislation so they can be passed and securing conditions for migrant farm workers. With her efforts in organizing proving effective, Huerta would continue to champion for change at the legislative level. Her long-standing fight for legislative rights would again be successful when she lobbied for the passing of the 1975 California Agricultural Labor Relations Act. While Huerta made monumental changes during these years, her life as an activist continues today. Huerta's efforts now focus on women's rights and social advocacy. Huerta's long-standing achievements would not go unrecognized. As stated in the United States Department of Labor's article on Dolores Huerta, in 2012, President Barack Obama would gift her the Presidential Medal of Freedom to honor her lifetime of advocacy on behalf of the underserved. Huerta's efforts created lasting change that can still be felt in the farm working community, her work being proof of the slogan "Sí se puede." In conclusion, the phrase "Sí se puede" reflects the life and legacy of Dolores Huerta. From her early days learning about grassroots organization through the CSO, to her role as a negotiator and co-founder of the UFW, and finally, her efforts to secure legislation that would protect farm workers. Huerta's impact has been long-lasting and is admirable. Her activism has paved the way for future generations to walk in her footsteps of activism and advocacy, proving that the phrase "Si se puede" is actual change. Huerta's efforts remind us to continue to fight for social justice and advocate for those so we can make change that is meaningful and lasting. Thank you.
Yay. Good job.
Thank you.